Handing over the screen to our beloved Program Quality Director to introduce to us our speaker for the day, DTM Master. Over to you, Vanika.
Thank you so much. There's a lot that we could talk about, Mark, but here's what really stood out for me, and I want to make this as personal as I can. The first time that I went to the convention, there was this one name that was like sort of like a buzzword at the convention. Everybody talked about one person in particular. Everybody had a connection to this one person in particular. And when I actually met this person, he was so shy. He was so introvert. He did not want to hang out with anyone. Okay, so he did not want to talk to anyone, but he was surrounded by people who wanted to know more about pathways, and he was pretty much on the limelight, and the limelight that he didn't want. I went on and I found out, I did my homework and I found out that he was the world's first DTM through pathways, while people were still struggling to get any kind of a DTM. And we just had heard pathways then. He had gone ahead and already become a DTM by then. And he's gone on to, one of the things that he has, comes across very strongly about our speaker today is the way that he helps people out. So this was a time when he was a chief ambassador in, pathways for his district. So which means he was not in a trio role yet. He was a chief ambassador. I remember having infographics that was circulated everywhere in the world. The first time that I ever heard about pathways was because Mark Snow had created how to attempt level 1 on pathways in an infographics, which I will always remember, which is probably the idea that, every other district has used thereon. So he's a pioneer in the way that we strategize things in our Toastmasters International. He's someone who believes big time in creating future leaders. He's someone who sees that connection, the very, very important connection that we need as an organization to connect the member and the club to the entire organization. I will be, if I don't use the word visionary, when I introduce him, then I'm really just stupid. Because everything that he has done so far, and every year, the way that he introduces pathways to the world in whatever capacity that he has been doing, has been simply amazing. We have so much to learn today, and it's a big, big honor to have him with us. Just so that you know, he was the first DTM. I mean, he got the first DTM from Pathways, but he's also currently pursuing his third DTM in Toastmasters International. He's someone who served the organization in so many levels, and currently is the Program Quality Director for District 69. Did I get that number right, Mark? Okay, District 69. And one of the things that strikes me, and that's, this is just Mark outside. He knows, some people who know him very well, knows that he knows the governing documents as by heart as the board that wrote it. You ask him anything, he will actually tell you which policy, which protocol, and he will give you, like he won't even have to look at links or anything. He will just tell you it's in this, it's in that. And so that is how much he's so well versed in the, the way that our organization runs. Now, a little about him outside of Toastmasters. Now, Mark is a financial analyst in a government agency, and then he is also an avid theater goer. One of the things that strikes me the most about him is that he drinks and he knows things. Familiar much? Presenting to you the Lannister of Toastmasters International. Please put your hands together for distinguished Toastmaster, Mark Snow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Vanita. Distinguished Toastmaster, Nirmala Lilly, District Director, PQD, Vanita Rangaranjan, leaders of District 121, Toastmasters, members, one and all. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to be here with you today, to be able to have this conversation with all of you and to be a part of your Toastmasters journey, even if it is just a small part, even if it is just this 1 or 2 hours today, to be a part of that journey for all of you, because a Toastmasters journey is something tremendously personal and tremendously special, and it's unique to all of us. And everyone that we come into contact with along the way plays a small part, or maybe a very big part, depending on their role in that journey. And so to be a small part of that is an absolute pleasure and a privilege for me. I'd like to start first of all by welcoming you to my home city in the background here of Brisbane, Australia. It's one of the great things about our current situation with COVID is that we get to travel around and meet so many other Toastmasters in so many other parts of the world. And we've heard just before about one of the District 121 members who has taken up that opportunity to travel the world and meet Toastmasters and make those connections with other leaders around the world, because we're not just bound to the four walls of our club. We are a global network and a global family and a global community, and being able to make those connections serves us so well for the future, not just in Toastmasters, but outside of Toastmasters as well. Just imagine having that international network that you can call upon for ideas or for professional advice or for job opportunities down the track. Who knows? Even just having a group of friends together for one big international birthday party. I recently turned 30, and I'll tell you here and now, I'm feeling it a lot. this old age thing starting to creep in. But one of the great opportunities of that was being able to have a Zoom party with friends from all over the world. And COVID was what started that idea. It wouldn't have crossed my mind otherwise, but that's the world that we live in at the moment. Before we also get started, I'd like to introduce you to my friend here, Kevin the koala. Now, koalas are a wonderful little part of our native wildlife here in Australia, and Kevin's going to be involved in our workshop today too. So you will be too, but Kevin's going to be in the driver's seat for part of it too. So let's get started. And for me, the Pathways journey is very much summed up in one saying that really resonates with me as a person and as a leader as well, is if you never climb, you'll never fall. But there is no joy in living your entire life on the ground. And that sums up not just our Toastmasters journey, but our personal journey throughout life. If we strive, if we climb, if we have a go, if we challenge ourselves, we will potentially end up in places that we never dreamed possible. Or we can choose to sit back, to do nothing, to watch other people climb to places that they never dreamed of, and we will never get there ourselves. Now that to me sums up everything about Pathways, is if we try, if we strive, if we climb, we can get to some really interesting places in our personal lives, in our Toastmasters lives, in our professional lives too. And today our session is going to be taking you through not just the what and the why of Pathways, but the how as well. We're going to really jump in and have a look at some of the details of this wonderful new program that we have, and so that you too, and as Toastmasters, as leaders in District 121, have the ability to make the most of this journey, because it is for everyone. Toastmasters is for everyone, and I'm really excited to be able to help you on your path to success through Toastmasters. Now, before we begin, or as we begin, I'd like to find out a little bit more about you. Why are you here? It's the fundamental question. Simon Sinek always asks, start with why. Why are you here in Toastmasters? What is Toastmasters going to do for you? Pull up the chat box and just plug in right now. What do you want Toastmasters to do for you? What skills, what sort of goals, what are you hoping to achieve with Toastmasters? I want to learn a bit more about you before we get started. What can Toastmasters do for you? So pull up your chat box and get started. What is Toastmasters mean for you? Yeah, practicing and scripting speeches, self-confidence, absolutely. Confidence, fun. Fun is absolutely what it is. Listening, wanting to be a TED speaker. Keep going. Networking, love it. Positive environment to build self-esteem. We're seeing a lot of themes here. It's good. So keep posting in. We have 80 people at the moment. Teaching, to be in touch with language, to go international. I love it. To convey thoughts, to improve listening skills. Leadership is in there too. So many different reasons that we come to Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is a transformational journey. It's something that we we have the ability to benefit from, no matter what our goals are. When I came to Toastmasters 6.5 almost years ago, I was a very shy, very anxious, very introverted accountant. I was just a graduate. And my goal in life was to be a slightly less anxious, more senior accountant. I didn't have very high goals, but that was my life at the time. But through Toastmasters, I've been able to transform my entire professional career and my own personal life too, to the point of, again, being the principal financial analyst for a whole government department, to manage a $7 billion government program, to be able to travel the world and to speak as a trainer and as a coach in other parts of the world. That's the sort of change that Toastmasters can bring to people. And I'm glad to see that everyone here today is striving towards something, no matter what that is. Now, Toastmasters, as I said, it is that transformational journey. It's going to take you to all sorts of places, but you have to work at it. And previously we had the traditional program where we had advanced communicators, competent leadership awards, all those things. Pathways hasn't changed any of that. The Toastmasters program can help you achieve whatever you want, and in fact help you achieve more than what you previously were able to. And that's what I love about it so much. I'm such a passionate advocate for this program, because I can see and I've seen how much it's helped people change. So I got started in Pathways right at the very beginning, as Vanita said, as a chief ambassador for my district. So I was responsible for rolling out Pathways in my district. So 183 clubs who were all quite long-standing clubs and very anxious. They didn't know anything about this program. And so my role was to do the research, to jump into this program, to find out more so that I could go back to my district and my members and help communicate what it was, to help them to understand, to help them get started on this journey too. And so through that journey, being able to meet so many inspirational leaders and members around the world, to be able to find out more about this program and to get started in Pathways when it was just starting. And back then, when dinosaurs kind of roamed the Pathways world, there wasn't much in the way of advice. There wasn't much in the way of tutorials or people to reach out to. We sort of had to work it out for ourselves through trial and error. And through that process of really jumping into the program and pulling it apart, understanding it, and bouncing those ideas around, we were able to make sense of it, and to make sense of it for ourselves and to help make sense of it for others. What we're going to cover today is, as I said, a bit of a deep dive into the program. We're going to start with the why. So what about Pathways really works and why it is valuable to you as a member of Toastmasters. So why you should continue or start your journey with Pathways if you haven't already. From there, we're going to run through the process of how you select this path, because choice is always a challenge, particularly when you have a lot of choices. We're going to work through different ways that you can narrow those choices down and select the path within the program that's going to help you the most in achieving the goals that you want out of Toastmasters. From there, we're going to jump into Basecamp and have a bit of a drive around and see what it looks like, what buttons to press, how to get in and get started with ease. And from there, we're going to discuss some of the more interesting elements of the program. I'm going to talk about the mentoring program in Pathways, which is one of my favorite parts of the program. We're going to talk about the Distinguished Toastmaster Award in Pathways, which a few of our members here today can talk about from experience because they've earned it. But we're going to talk about how you too, how any member can achieve that coveted DTM award in Pathways. And from there, we're going to really jump into how you can get started and help other members get started within the program. And finally, we'll have a Q&A at the end, so you can have any other questions that you want answered, and we will be able to sail off from here, really motivated and really confident about continuing on our journey within Toastmasters using Pathways. So if that sounds like a great program, stick around and we're going to get started. So as I said, why Pathways? What is it about Pathways that really gets people excited? I mean, Pathways compared to the program that we used to have has so many more options. What I personally love about it is just the different projects that we have now, the ability to learn skills that we couldn't before. As as Vanita said, I'm a financial analyst by day and a Toastmaster by night. And for me, I don't get a lot of experience with things like managing events or marketing or some of the more interesting leadership stuff. But in Toastmasters, through the Pathways program, I've had the opportunity to try out some of those skills and really develop those abilities that I wouldn't get through my professional career. Or I might have to go to university and pay several $100s to even get started on something like that. So Toastmasters and the Pathways program is giving me so many more options than I used to have. The flexibility of the program to be able to choose my own adventure, to be able to say, well, this is what I want to learn. You know, I'm not going to be bound or chained by certain choices and certain paths that people have laid out for me. I'm going to choose my path and choose how I want to learn and what I want to learn and when I want to learn it. That to me is one of the things about the program that works, that flexibility, that ability to just choose my own destination, because we are in control of our journey. It's not being controlled for us. As Vanita said, I've worked through Distinguished Toastmaster Awards in the traditional and the Pathways program. Vanita, you actually had it wrong. I've earned 4 DTMs in the traditional program, and I'm now working on my 3rd Pathways DTM. But having worked through both programs to that level, in the traditional program, you sort of finished a communication track and a leadership track, and then a DTM kind of popped out the end. What I found comparing the 2 programs, in the traditional program, I often found that I was repeating a lot of projects over and over without necessarily learning much more. It was the experience was self-contained in my club. I'd do a manual and a manual and a manual and a manual, and I wouldn't necessarily gain anything new. It was feeling like I was giving speeches for their own sake, not because it was actually teaching me anything. Whereas in the Pathways program, what really worked for me, or what I found in the Pathways program, is that I have learned so much more in a much shorter period of time. And that's not something I say lightly. The Pathways program is built on a really fundamental cycle. It is read the material, then do the work, deliver your presentation about the work that you've done and your reflections, and then receive the feedback and reflect and grow, and then do it all over again. So that cycle of read, do, speak, and reflect is powerful. That sits at the heart of what the Pathways program does. And I found it's helped me so much more in developing skills a lot faster than I otherwise would have done. One of the other advantages about the Pathways program is it's built to be connected with our real world. In the traditional program, it used to be you had a limit on the number of presentations you could do outside of your club. In the Pathways program, there's no limitations. You can turn any of your presentations outside of the club into a Pathways project. If you are giving a presentation at a work event, you can have that signed off as a Pathways project. If you are leading a team in a community organization, you can use that for a Pathways project. There is no limit on what you can do with that program. It's designed to connect with what your goals are and what you're doing in the real world. And that's what I love about it. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. But for me, the main thing, the thing that really inspires me the most about this program is just seeing what our members have done with it. There's a friend of mine who's based in the Philippines. She used the Pathways program and her path and one of her projects to organize an event for a women's shelter that she volunteers with, and helped turn that event and turn that organization around because it was struggling. And she was able to use her Pathways projects and to use those skills to help make a difference in her local community, to actually help these women who are in shelters to turn their lives around and to get themselves back on track. There was another friend of mine who's based in Singapore. His Pathways projects led him to organizing a big global speech day and to bring in people from all over the world and deliver some tremendously inspirational presentations, to bring together so much knowledge and to share that with, again, people in his city, and to use that as a gift to the wider world and to his community, not just something that he was doing in a club, but something that actually meant something, because he as well was involved in the community. Another friend of mine used the Pathways program to help advance their career, to use some of those projects and connect those to project management roles that he was doing in his workplace. And in doing those projects well, was able to attract the attention of his boss and get promoted not once, not twice, but 3 times over the last 2 years. That's really impressive stuff. But it's the power of this program and it's what it can do for you that really excites me. And I hope it excites you too, because it's something that's open to all members. If regardless of whether you're a new member or an experienced member, the Pathways program has something in there for you. And we're going to pull it apart now and really have a look at all of the different things that it can do for you. Now, the first step of starting your Pathways journey is the moment you walk into a club. The moment you walk into a club, or again, if you're an existing member, the moment you decide that you want to get started, it's how do I get started? You know, what do I do? How do I select a path? What choices do I have? And how can I turn this program into something that's really useful for me, not just something that is just I have to work through. It's something I'm not motivated or not inspired about. And the first path is in selecting a path. And what I really recommend for my members or members around the world is to actually select your path before you even get started. To me, when a member walks through the door for the very first time, part of that conversation is sitting down with them and really saying, what are your goals? Like just as we asked at the very start of this session, you know, why are you here? What is your why? Why are you in Toastmasters? What can Toastmasters do for you? And from that conversation of working out what our new members and our existing members' goals are, we can start to help guide them towards a path that's going to be beneficial to them. So let's get started on the first slide. Now we have 11 paths in Pathways. They all focus on a different range of skills. At one end, we've got communication skills, very much public speaking, presentation. I just want to be able to get up in front of an audience and speak. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have some of the more leadership heavy skills. Like I want to be able to lead teams, lead organizations. I want to be self-confident and develop skills that I can take out into the world and really use. And all the 11 paths fall somewhere in between. Between one end of the spectrum to the other, we have a range. Now, I don't know about you, whenever I go grocery shopping, I walk into the aisle and I look at tinned tuna. And I see all of the different brands of tuna sitting up on the shelf. And I think to myself, there's too much choice. I don't know what to pick. Like, is this one better? Is that one better? Is low fat, high sugar, low salt? I don't know. There's so much choice. I don't know about you whenever you go grocery shopping, but whenever there's a lot of choice, I find it difficult to make a decision. Whereas if there's less choice, it's much easier for me to pick option A or option B. And that's what this slide here is all about, is helping to group or break down some of those parts into more understandable groups. So the first, and don't worry, we're going to explain them as we go. So in the top left-hand corner, we have the 2 paths focused on public speaking. So presentation mastery, engaging humor. These 2 paths are all about people wanting to develop their public speaking and presentation skills. So if you are wanting to just learn how to get up in front of an audience and present, sort of what we're doing now, then these might be the paths for you. Presentation mastery is all about public speaking skills, and it culminates in an 18 to 22 minute keynote presentation where you get up and you speak well in front of a crowd. It can be a Toastmasters audience, can be a non-Toastmasters audience, but the culmination of those skills is being able to present for an extended period of time confidently, capably, and with ease. The engaging humor path, very similar. It's all about developing your humorous speaking abilities and your ability to be funny and be witty and so on. Again, as I said at the beginning, I'm an accountant. Accountants are not known for being particularly funny. It's just not part of our nature. So this was one of the paths that I quite enjoyed taking on because it helped stretch me in new directions. This path is all about discovering the different types of humor and how your sense of humor fits into that. It culminates in a level 5 project where you're giving an 18 to 22 minute humorous style keynote. So it could be like an after dinner speech or a presentation at a dinner or a gala event, something that's funny, that's really witty, that's going to entertain your audience for an extended period of time. And if you can do that well, then you are proficient at engaging humor. From there, we move across. So again, public speaking skills, very much in that corner. From there, we move across to the second group, the small projects group. Now, these three paths all focus on small project activities. So depending on the type of skills that you're wanting to learn, you might pick leadership development or motivational strategies or visionary communication. These are three different paths focusing on different outcomes. So leadership development is how to develop your leadership skills. And there's a number of small projects involved that will help you with developing your own leadership skills. From there, motivational strategies, it's working with one or two other people, motivating them and developing the skills involved in motivating a small team. And then finally, we have visionary communication. This was one of my favorite projects. It was the first project, the first path that I actually did when I started Pathways, because being able to, who's scribbling? Being able to determine, like to work out your own vision and then to sell it to the wider world, there's a skill in that. The visionary communication path, it culminates in a level 5 project where you basically develop a vision. It can be for yourself, can be for an organization, can be for whatever particular goal that you want. But going through that process of reflection, of thinking ahead, of working out where you want to be and who you want to be, that's really powerful. And that's something that I found helped me tremendously in my own personal development, not just my Toastmasters journey, but my own personal development, because you find a way to chart a course to places that are really, really interesting. And it's helped me, again, doing that path at the start of my Toastmasters journey really helped me with working out where I want to end up, not just now, but also into the future. So I had a lot of fun with that one. So those paths are all around sort of small project work, and depending on the skills you want, they might be for you. Now we come over to the bottom left-hand corner, which is all about leading teams. The three paths in this category are all about developing management and team leadership skills. So dynamic leadership is all about really getting your team working really effectively and just motivating them to great success. Strategic relationships is all about networking and developing those skills of interpersonal communication skills. Again, one of the projects in here is around networking. And as an introverted, shy, anxious accountant, I tend not to do very well in large groups. As Vanita said at the very start, attending a big conference is almost my worst nightmare. There's lots of people, they're all talking. I just want to go into a corner and read a book. That's my life. I just really want to sort of just get away from all of that. But the strategic relationships path and the focus on networking and building those connections helped me to overcome some of that and to develop strategies for making the most of those times when I couldn't escape the big crowd. I love the networking project in that path because the whole point of that project is read about the theory and the tactics for networking, and then the project forces you to attend a networking event. It actually says, well, rather than just reading about networking, how about we get you out and talking with people? And immediately my inner introvert just started screaming, because that's not what my inner introvert really wants to do. But I did it. And so I went out to this professional conference that was related to my work, about 200 accountants in the one room. And it forced me to try out this networking thing. And it was awkward. You know, just accountants talking to each other generally is kind of awkward, but it's even worse when you're an introvert. But by doing that project, by forcing me out of my comfort zone, and then giving me an opportunity to reflect and present about my experience, I found I grew so much in my ability to network, and it's helped me ever since to be able to network with people, not just locally, but all around the world. Then we have team collaboration, and this is about bringing together a team and how to collaborate effectively, how to work together productively, and to be like one synergistic group. Now that's a powerful skill if you're looking at leading a team, or if you are already managing a team. How can you work better with your colleagues? How can you bring people together in a manner that means that you are greater than the sum of your parts? These are really useful skills. And if they're what you're sort of looking for out of your Toastmaster experience, maybe consider one of these 3 paths too. And then we come over to the 4th category, our bottom right, the holistic leadership. Now, these 3 paths all culminate in a high-performance leadership project. The Level 5 project is a high-performance leadership project. And all 3 of these paths focus on developing your personal leadership skills to an even greater degree. Effective coaching is all about learning how to coach other people effectively and in a positive manner to achieve greater success in their personal lives, professional lives, Toastmaster journey, you name it. Whatever you want to coach them through, you're going to learn how to do that in a great and effective way. Innovative planning is for those people who love to be organized, or more importantly, perhaps need to be organized. If you are a creative type, if you're very disorganized, if you are a procrastinator, or if you are just always hitting the alarms so that you're just late waking up every morning, this might be the path for you, because one of the projects in there is about time management and learning how to more effectively use the time that you have so that you can be more effective as a leader. It helps you develop your planning skills and your project management skills. Those are really useful to have, and you can use them not just in your professional life, but in your personal life too. I mean, who wouldn't want to be more organized? It just makes your life that much better. It's something that's taken me a long time to learn, but again, I'm glad that I've got the innovative planning path there to help me reinforce that approach. And then we have the persuasive influence path, and this is all about, again, developing our persuasive skills. So how can we get what we want? How can we negotiate better? How can we turn people to our point of view and achieve the outcomes we want in an effective way? That's really powerful in itself, again, for many, many reasons. And that collectively, those are those 3 paths. So when we're sitting down thinking about our own pathways journey, when we're thinking about which path we want or which path another member might want, by breaking it down into these smaller categories, we can help them make more informed choices, because it's very easy to take the questionnaire, and we'll do a bit of a drive-through of that later. But I find that it's always best when a new member sits down with an experienced member and they have a conversation. Where is it that I want to go? What do I want to get out of Toastmasters? Where might I already be thinking about picking a path? Because it helps them make the choice, and it means that they're going to be more excited about getting started sooner, rather than just waiting and waiting and waiting to make a decision. You don't want your new member to be that person standing there in the grocery aisle, looking at all the different options on the shelves and wondering which one is the best for them. You want to give them a couple of choices that make sense, that will help them achieve what they want, because that's going to help them get started sooner. That's absolutely the approach that we want to take here. And that all comes down to, as I sort of said before, the importance of orientation. Now, orientation in clubs is important. In the Pathways era, it is more important than ever before. Toastmasters did a study where they said over 40% of new members never renew. They never make it past the first 6 months. That's really scary, because think of how many people join Toastmasters every year, and almost half of them don't stay past the first 6 months. To me, a large part of that reason is because we're not setting them up for success. We're not giving them the tools they need to get started. So when a member walks into a club, we talk to them about the program, we get them excited about Toastmasters, we tell them about all the benefits and show them how much it's done for us too. We tell them those stories. And then the member signs their form, pays their money, and bam, they are now a member of your club. But the journey doesn't stop there. The journey really kicks off after they've signed up as a member. And it takes place in this last step, the Toastmaster step. This is the bit where a new member comes in, someone sits down with them and talks about their goals. They get assigned a mentor. Someone shows them how to find their way around the club, how to use pathways, who the different members of the club leadership team are, how to get started on the program, what all these different roles are, why is everyone clapping all the time, all of the things that we take for granted in Toastmasters. This is the time when they need to be explained to a new member. And part of that process is the pathways orientation, showing that new member how to get started in this program, because that's what's going to get them started. We find so much in the pathways adoption rates around the world that new members are lagging so much. You know, almost less than half of new members are enrolled in pathways. And at the moment, pathways is the only education program. So if they're not in pathways, what are they doing? This is what we really need to be focusing on, is how do we ensure that every new member is getting started in the program and beginning that journey of self-development that we've been able to enjoy as members too. So that is that part of the process. So we've covered off a few steps. We've gone from why pathways, what's in it for you? And then from there, we've talked about the getting started process, selecting a path and really helping narrow down that choice for our existing members and our new members. What we're going to do now is jump in, and Kevin here, my little assistant, Kevin, he's going to jump into Basecamp, and we're going to do a little bit of a test drive of this program and show you how simple it is to get started. So with that, and again, for those of you that are following along at home, if you've got your own internet browser up, you can follow along too. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and just have a quick breeze around Basecamp, which is where Pathways lives on the Toastmasters website. So here we go, the Toastmasters International website. To get started in Pathways, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're logged in. For an existing member, you've probably already got a login. For a new member, you'll need to put in your email address and then hit reset password, and that will allow you to reset your password and get started and logged in. Now, Pathways sits in this little tab called Pathways, who'd have thought. And then from there, you want to jump into the start page. Now, this is where it all gets exciting and apparently really slow. So we'll just give that a second to come up. Here we are. All right. Every new member starting Pathways for the first time ends up at this page. And there's a few different options here. On the right-hand side, we have the navigator. This is basically the how-to manual, how to get started, what to do, and what Pathways and Toastmasters is all about. For a new member, really good place to start off. If you're an experienced member starting Pathways for the first time, you probably don't need to know that as much. In the middle, we have the Access My Path through Basecamp. Now, this is where you'll go when you have your path, and this is how you access all of that great content that's available in the program. If you're a Basecamp manager, so if you are a president, a vice president education, or a secretary, you've got administrative access to Basecamp, and you'll have an option to log in as a Basecamp manager and approve your members' awards, to run reports on how your members are progressing through the program, and just more broadly to maintain the administrative side of the program in your club. But what we're going to do at the moment is start over here on the left, which is choosing your path. Now, if you are starting Pathways for the first time, it's not going to cost you anything. It comes as part of your membership. If you've already completed a path, it's another $20 US to activate another. Now, what I've found, again, comparing the two programs, is the old paper-based system, it would cost you more in manuals and buying manuals, having them shipped over to wherever you live. It would cost you much more doing that way than it does in Pathways. So it's quite cost effective in our new program. So we're going to jump into how to select a path. The process, again, to select a path is very, very simple. You pick the language that you want to select your path in. You choose whether you want to go digital or in print. If you want your materials printed out, bound, and shipped to you, it is an extra $25 US. What I've found myself, having members in my district that have signed up for the printed materials, the online materials are a lot better. You have a lot more choice, you have a lot more options, and you don't have to wait for postage, which again, in this global world, I'm impatient. I want things now. So I always go with the digital option. Now from there, you can choose how you want to select the path. If you want, again, if your members come in and they're sort of still not sure about what they want to select, they can take a questionnaire, an online assessment, and that will help guide them towards a few options. But again, as we talked about before, if you've already sat down and had a conversation with your new member, and there are lots of tools available to you to help with that conversation, your new member might already have an idea which path is best for them. So being able to sort of select what their path is, here we go, means that you'll be able to select a path straight away and just go from it. So again, we talked about the different paths before. Part of the sign-up process, just select the path you want and then carry on. And from there, it's a simple process of just confirming what you want, working through the purchase process again for a first timer, not an issue, and then payment process, etc., and you're done. That's the easy part. So we're going to assume that all of that's happened and that you've signed up and congratulations, you're now on Pathways. At this point, your access to the program opens up, and that's where we jump into Basecamp, where all of the fun stuff really happens. So let's jump in now and have a bit of a drive around this program that we've got. Now, Basecamp, this is where everything lives relating to your Pathways program, all of the projects, all of the video resources, all of the tutorial, it's all in here. The main sections that you want to be aware of. So 1, tutorials and resources. If you have questions about how anything works, how to sign off a level, how to access a project, how to access speech evaluation forms, it's all in here. Speaking of speech evaluation forms, Toastmasters, we're all about evaluation. We're all about feedback. In fact, the peer feedback process that we use through Toastmasters is what separates us from almost every other organization out there in the world. You can go to Dale Carnegie, you can go to TED, you can go to workshops and university courses and so many other different ways of learning these skills. But generally what they don't include, and what Toastmasters does really well, is that peer feedback process. I mean, I can get up in front of a mirror and I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk until I run out of breath. But all I'm doing is cementing bad habits unless I've got someone providing me with feedback about how terribly I'm speaking to that mirror. So this is why feedback is so important. And so the speech evaluation forms, if you are giving a speech evaluation, if you're evaluating another member on one of their speeches, depending on what the project title is, you can look up this form and download it as a PDF quite happily. Depending on the culture in your club, so in my district, some clubs, it's the responsibility of the speaker to download the evaluation form and send it to their evaluator so that they can read through the material and familiarize themselves with the evaluation before the speech. In other clubs, it's the opposite. The Toastmaster or the VP Education assigns the evaluators and the evaluator goes out and downloads the form. Whatever that culture is in your club, it's up to you, but this is where you can find those evaluation forms quite easily, and that'll just make things really simple for you. So let's jump back then to home. But the most important bit, where everything really lives, is in this paths and learning section. So this is where you access your projects. Now I have been a little bit pathways mad. I've worked my way through and completed all 11 paths. So I'm now actually doing some paths a second time around. And this one here, leadership development, is the one that I'm currently working on. And so I'm just going to jump in here. There we go. Just find my little cursor. And Kevin's going to jump in and have a look at leadership development. Now, in Pathways, you can do the projects in any order that you like, depending on what your goals are, depending on the opportunities you have available, depending on what you want to learn at the moment, you can jump in and select the projects that you want. The first project that every member starts with and is really encouraged to start with is the icebreaker, because being able to introduce yourself, not just to the members of your club, but just more broadly, is a really useful skill. But you can see, you can jump in and have a look at all of the other projects in your path. So we've got time management, we've got understanding your leadership style, planning and implementing. We've got projects here that will help you. So every path has 5 levels with different projects available. Most of them are compulsory, but then as you get to level 3, 4, and 5, you have a list of elective projects that you can select. And again, this is where the real value of the program shines, because you can jump in and have a look at skills and projects that you've never seen before. Most of the projects from the old Competent Communicator Manual live in level 3, level 1, level 3 and level 1 are where most of those old Competent Communicator projects sit. So for those of you that are familiar with the previous program, the content's still here. It's just been moved into a different space. So at least now you know where to find it. At the end of each path, you have a reflect on your path project. And this is all about looking back at the journey that you've had, all the 14 projects that you've completed, the skills that you've learned, the experience you've gained, and really understanding where to from here. How have I grown through this journey, and where to from here? And I find whenever I finish a path, this project is the one that really cements in my mind all of the learnings that I've had. You know, this is what I've gained from this program, and this is where it's leading me. And it could be leading me to all sorts of interesting places, but that process of reflection, in the same way that we talked about before, so read the material, do the work, present about your experience, and then reflect on everything, that cycle starts with every single path. And it's such a powerful cycle, in the same way that you might go to a gym. And while you might be working out at a gym, and again, with COVID lockdowns here in my city, I haven't had a chance to go to a gym, and I think my arms are sort of suffering for it. But, you know, we'll get there. But if you go to a gym and you're just working out by yourself and no one is providing you with feedback, you're not going to grow very much, as much as if you had a personal trainer. So having that personal trainer, being able to show you what you're doing, to reflect on where you're going, to help you grow and to help you learn about your technique, that's going to be a much stronger process for you, and you're going to make some real improvements a lot faster. So this is how the Pathways program works. And it's what I really, really enjoy about it. It's online, it's available wherever you have an internet connection, you can access this program. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these other sections of Basecamp, because while they are useful, they're not critical. They're something that you can explore at your own leisure, and they're just a great way, again, to flesh out your experience. I will just talk briefly about my documents. With Pathways, you have file storage. So if you have speech, like if you've written out your speech, if you've typed it up, if you've got evaluation forms, if you've got any other documents associated with your projects, you can actually jump in here and upload them so that you can keep them for all time. You don't have to keep all of your Toastmasters documents in a paper file anymore. You can actually upload them to your profile, and you can hold on to that for as long as you like, which is fantastic because I don't like carrying lots of paper around. It gets very heavy. So it's a good way for me to keep all of my project materials in the one place. So this is Basecamp. And so this is Kevin's little journey through Basecamp. He sort of decided this Pathways thing, it's really kind of cool. So he's going to have a look around and check it out more when he's got a bit more time. He's going to jump in and have a look at one of the projects. So Kevin here is a new Toastmaster. We charged him $45 US, which is perhaps a little bit steep because koalas don't earn much money, but that's koalas for you. Kevin wants to do his icebreaker. So he's going to click on activate. So every project has this same process. So no matter whether it's the icebreaker or your level 5, you get into each project the same way. So you click activate, you click launch, and at that point, the project opens. It all follows the same structure. I'll just give it a second there to load. Right, anyways. Ooh, here we go. All right, so for those of you that work in a corporate environment, you're maybe familiar with learning management systems and how this kind of thing works. Effectively, each part of the system is something that you work your way through. You can click begin and then gradually work through each of the projects here to help yourself with understanding where you need to go. So I'm just trying to move you all off to the side there, not quite working. But for me, one of the easiest ways to get around is you can simply navigate through each of these paths. So you can go from one step to the next. It explains the project, it explains what your assignment is, what you have to do, and then it works you through all the different content. Each project starts with a self-assessment because again, that process of reflection and benchmarking is really important in Toastmasters. Kevin here he feels he's fairly confident speaking in front of groups. I mean, he is a koala. They're very cool. They're very relaxed about things. So he's going to sort of rank himself. This is a project. This is the part of the project process that every member should go through. Even if you are an experienced member, it's always good to start with where do I feel I am before I take on this project, and then there'll be a reflective process at the end. So where do I feel I am after I've done this project? So Kevin's pretty confident and calm. They're very cool, calm, and collected, our little koalas here. Does he understand the structure of basic speech? Well, no. Koalas don't know how to read. That's a problem. So he doesn't really understand the structure of a basic speech at all. Is he aware of his strengths? Yeah. Kevin the koala, he's fairly self-aware. He thinks he knows what he's good at, and he thinks he knows what he's not so good at. So good on Kevin. Is he aware of where he needs to improve? Yep, again, self-aware. We love koalas that are self-aware because otherwise they tend to get a bit scratchy. Does he have clear communication and leadership goals? Well, no, he doesn't. Kevin the koala, he doesn't have very clear goals. That's why he's here in Toastmasters. He thinks we can help. And finally, does he recognize how this project applies to his life outside of Toastmasters? Well, of course he does, because he's had a great mentor from one of his clubs sit down with him and talk about why Toastmasters is good for him and his life. So that's the first step of the project process. We're going to revisit that sort of at the end. So from there, we can move on. So from the assess your skills, now to competency. So each project has a list of competencies that it's trying to help us to achieve. Always good to review these before we get started. But from there, we sort of work through all of the different parts of the project. Yeah, I'm just going to stop that. The icebreaker, much like the old Competent Communicator Manual, has lots of content. In fact, there's probably more content in the Pathways icebreaker than there was in the Competent Communicator icebreaker. I found it really, really useful for me starting out. And again, there's lots of Toastmasters around the world in these instructional videos to help with getting people started. I found as an experienced member, even just looking back at those reflections from other members on what they would have done differently for their first time, just helpful for me in terms of just picking up some tips. So effectively, you work your way through all the content. So preparing your speech, after your speech, and then you get to this review. So again, more opportunities to reflect on your learning, reflect on your knowledge before you move on. And then finally, we get to the complete section and then your evaluation. Now at this point, so as a member, when a member gets to this point, this is where they want to stop, because this is the last page before they go in and deliver their speech. This page has the evaluation form for the project. It's got the PDF for the project that you can download, and it's got any other templates and tools that are involved in that project. So when a new member or any member gets to this point of their project, this is where they need to stop, because after this point, you're going to go into your club and give your speech. And this page here is just explaining, well, how does your evaluation for that work? So Kevin the koala, he's written his icebreaker. He's a good Toastmaster. He's followed the instructions. He's written his 4 to 6 minutes. He's gone into his club and he's introduced himself saying, hi, I'm Kevin the koala. I'm from Australia, Brisbane. I like to cling on trees, eat eucalyptus leaves, and scratch things. And that's his icebreaker. So he's done. Kevin's going to get an evaluation from, probably Kenny the kangaroo. And then he's going to take that evaluation. He's going to reflect on that evaluation that he's received from from his clubmate, and then he's going to move on to the next step of this project. So after he's given his speech and gotten his evaluation from his club, he's going to jump back into Pathways, navigate back to this page, and then move on to the next bit, which is the assess his skills afterwards. So these questions here directly reflect the questions that we completed at the first part of the activity. So does Kev the koala feel confident and calm speaking in front of groups? Well, yes. He's gotten up in front of a group of strangers and he now feels very confident speaking in front of other Australian animals. So that's progress. Well done, Kevin. Does he understand the structure of basic speech? Yes, because he's received an effective evaluation that picked him up on his lack of structure and showed him how he could improve his speech. So Kevin thinks he understands the structure of basic speech a lot better. Is he aware of his strengths as a communicator lead? Yes, he is. He feels as though, yes, he's very much aware of his strengths because he's received that evaluation. He knows a bit more about himself. Is he aware of where he needs to improve? Absolutely, because the evaluation that he received included not just what he did well, but also where he could improve for the future. So he feels a lot more confident about his future goals in Toastmasters. Does he have clear communication goals? Absolutely. Again, the evaluation has helped Kevin the koala understand where he's going and what he wants to focus on next for his future speeches. And then does he understand how the project applies? Absolutely, more so than he did right at the very start. After you finish that process, you get to see a comparison. So you can actually see, comparing from when you started to after you finish this project, how much you've improved. And hopefully every member who does work their way through a project improves. Like, this is why we're doing the project, because we want to get better. But being able to see it in front of you can make all the difference in terms of feeling, oh, I'm actually learning something here. I feel more confident. I feel more capable. I feel as though I'm getting something out of this program. I want to keep going. And that, once we finish that, is the end of the process. So from that point, you've finished and the project gets marked as complete. So I'm just going to quickly drag that over there, because with you all on the side of the screen for me, I can't actually see all that. So, all right, here we go. Bring that back up. So yes, so once you finish that assessment, next page is congratulations, project is complete, and Kevin the koala has now finished his icebreaker. So you can close out of that tab, jump back into Basecamp, and now the icebreaker has a tick next to it. So this is the path that you follow for every single project in Pathways. If you do that well, you're going to be well on your way to achieving that Distinguished Toastmaster Award. So that is a very quick run through Basecamp and how to make it work for you. It is very, very simple. And a large part of this journey is just understanding what buttons to click and where to look for the instructions. So that is where we are. So I'm going to stop sharing now and just move that out of the way. Cool. So we've gone through selecting a path. We've gone through Basecamp. And the next step is, well, okay, where to from here? We've done our icebreaker. Kevin the koala, he feels like a real Toastmaster now. He's got his little icebreaker ribbon. He feels great. But what's next? You know, what else can we do with this program of ours? What can we do to make the most of this Toastmasters journey? And I hear it a lot, particularly from more experienced members, is that they don't understand where everything fits. You know, what is, like, where are all the projects and all the speeches that I used to do? How do they fit into Pathways now? Have they taken it away? Has it moved somewhere else? What's up with that? And so there's a document here that I prepared. And again, it's a very simple breakdown of the fact that, to be honest, you're probably already doing Pathways in your club. So whether you realize it or not, a lot of what you're already doing actually meets the requirements for different projects in the program. So it's one of the things, one of the little secrets that I tell my members is, you know, always find a way to get every project that you're doing, every speech that you're doing marked off. And if you don't know where, come and ask, because it's almost definitely that regardless of what you're doing, there's a project in Pathways that can help you do it better and help you receive credit for what you're doing. So here's a couple of slides, and I'm not going to go through it in huge detail, but And again, these documents will be shared. I'll send them to Vanita afterwards. So you'll be able to use these as a reference afterwards. If you're giving a general style speech, like regardless of the type of speech that you're giving, there are so many projects in Pathways that apply to anything from a generic style speech to a factual speech that you've had to go off and research. There's so many options out there. And it's really good because, again, even if you have to get up at the last minute, if a speaker in your club meeting drops out and doesn't show up and you have to get up and give a speech at short notice, you can match that speech to any number of these projects. So that's tremendously useful to have in your back pocket. So if something crops up and you find that you're giving a speech, at least now you know where you can move, where you can have those speeches signed off. And again, lots of level 1 project, lots of level 4, level 3. There's so many different projects in the Pathways program that you can match a speech to, which is really, really cool. So let's move on then to some other ways, some other types of projects. If you're talking about leadership, there are so many projects in Pathways related to leadership you can talk about, which is really useful. Again, if you're also involved in projects within Toastmasters, outside of Toastmasters, perhaps you're managing a project, maybe you're getting involved in marketing or social media for your club, perhaps you're doing a high performance leadership project. There are a number of Pathways projects that you can make use of that will help you turn that project that you're working on into a Toastmasters speech, but also a credit as well towards your path and your DTM. But what I found, like one of the examples that I found really useful with this, as I said right at the start, I'm an accountant. I don't get involved in things like event management or marketing or anything like that, or project management, because a lot of what I do is policy-based. One of my colleagues ended up coming down very sick. So she was very sick and was responsible for organizing a series of workshops, events around my home state, which is quite large. And so because I was the only other person available, I got asked by my boss to take on this project, to organize 7 really extensive workshops around the state, organize the registrations, the catering, all the questions, to get the presenters together, to organize travel and accommodation, all of that. And to be honest, I was panicking. It was a huge project, very short notice. There was a lot that could go wrong. But the first thing I did was I reached out into Pathways. I dug out the Manage Project Successfully project, the level 4 project there. I started reading through all of the advice and all of the material that it had about how to run a project well, how to run events well. And I used the templates, I used the resources and the knowledge there. And it was the best run event that my department had ever seen, which was great because there was so much that could go wrong. And I was absolutely nervous about how it would turn out. But that is just one example of how you can use the materials in this program in your day-to-day life. You can use it for anything. And Pathways, absolutely saved me. It saved me and it helped me gain a promotion because my bosses were that impressed with how it went. And so it's been able to use that material to not just further your own Toastmasters journey, but to further your personal development journey or your professional development journey. Pathways is here to work for you. It's not the other way around. So regardless of what you're doing in your personal life, your professional life, your social life, think about where a Pathways project could fit, because there's almost definitely going to be a lot of advice and guidance there to help you do what you're doing even better. So coming back then to club roles and to this slide. So if you're a topics master in a meeting, there's a project there, active listening. You can have that marked off as a level 3 project. It's one more step closer to achieving that DTM. And we'll talk a little bit more about the DTM as we go. And then finally, all of the things that you can do outside of a club. Now, historically, a lot of this used to sit within the advanced leader or the leadership track, but it actually now sits within certain Pathways projects. So if you are a club officer, if you're a district leader, there's a level 5 project called Leading in Your Volunteer Organization that is open to anyone. Download that project, read through the material, because it will help you do your job better. It will help you be a better leader, and be more successful in your role. If you are attending events where lots of people are gathering, you too can learn how to overcome your fear of social anxiety and develop your networking skills with that level 3 project, make connections through networking. At the moment, a lot of our clubs are online or holding online events or online meetings. There's a level 4 project, manage online meetings. That will, again, help you how to run those meetings more effectively. But again, it's another way to work your way towards finishing your path and developing more skills. Delivering an education session, being a contest chair, regardless of what you're doing in Toastmasters, there's almost definitely a Pathways project that fits with it. So knowing where to match what you're doing with the Pathways program will help you progress that much faster through Pathways. So it's really, really cool. That's what I love about it. We're going to jump out of that. So we have so many more opportunities to us. So we've covered a lot of ground so far. We've gone through how to get started, how to select a path, what Basecamp looks like, and where you can match the different projects in the program to what you're already doing in your club or in your leadership roles within Toastmasters. So that brings us to some of the more interesting elements of the program and stuff that I really enjoy. The mentor program in Pathways is exceptional. It really, really is. And it's one of my favorite parts of the program because mentoring is another one of those elements within Pathways, within Toastmasters even, that adds so much value. Now the Pathways projects, the mentoring projects activate when you finish level 2. You'll have an option come up to activate the Pathways mentor program and start working through these projects. Now the mentor program has 3 different projects involved in it. The first one is all about preparing to be a mentor. And the material in this project is about reflecting on your skills, your experience, what you're wanting to gain out of being a mentor and how you can be a better mentor. And I found that really useful for me because it was all about, not just about what experience I brought to the table, but also what my parameters were. As a mentor, you know, how did I want to be communicated with? What was the type of personality I wanted in a potential protege? What were the ground rules that I wanted? What sort of personality did I want? Did I want a protege who was very proactive? Did I want to be the one who was telling them more rather than guiding, asking questions? It's a really useful exercise for any leader to go through that project and to reflect on what sort of mentor do I want to be. From there, the mentor program moves into a practical mentoring project. And this project is all about mentoring another member through a project. Could be a level 1 project. So if you are a relatively new mentor, you might mentor another member through their icebreaker stage. But if you're an experienced member, and we have many experienced members here today, you might choose to mentor another member through a level 4 or level 5 project. But you have that flexibility. It's a great opportunity to practice mentoring skills and to reflect back on your experience and how you can do mentoring better. Which leads us into the level 5 project, the capstone of the mentoring program, and one of my favorite parts of the Pathways program overall, the advanced mentoring project. Now in this project, you are required to mentor another person, can be a Toastmaster, can be someone else, to mentor them for 6 months. So that is 6 months of mentoring. You sit down with this person, you find out what their goals are, you work together to develop a plan, and you check in regularly along the way. And the great thing is you can mentor anyone anywhere in the world. And my first mentor for this program, my first protege for this program, was based on the other side of Australia to me, which is a 6-hour flight. And we were able to have a 6-month mentoring relationship. He wanted to develop his leadership skills and to work his way into a division director role that I had already finished. And so it was an opportunity for me to work with him to grow his leadership skills and help him achieve that goal. And 6 months later, he had done his leadership reading, he had networked, he had gotten his profile built across the district, and he achieved that goal, which was fantastic. So together, we helped him achieve something that he couldn't or he felt he couldn't do by himself. Now that is the power of mentoring. And you can do that not just in Toastmasters with Toastmasters goals, you can do that with anyone, with all sorts of goals. It really depends on what they want out of the program. So I put that challenge out to you. Go out there, find someone who you want to mentor, someone who could benefit from your experience and from your guidance, and sit down with them, have a conversation. What are their goals? How can you work together to help that person get there? It's really, really useful. Which brings us to the really cool stuff, or the really important stuff, the Pathways DTM. And this is where it all sort of happens, because for me, a Distinguished Toastmaster Award is a privilege, it's an experience, it's a journey. And for all of the DTMs here, I hope you all agree with me, you learn so much along the way in completing a DTM. It's everything that you get involved in, all the skills that you learn, the people that you meet, the experiences that you have. It teaches you so much. And the path to a Distinguished Toastmaster Award in Pathways is fairly straightforward, and I'm going to explain that one to you now. And again, because I'm an accountant and I love spreadsheets and I love flowcharts, I have a flowchart for you. And this will help explain how the Distinguished Toastmaster Award works. So there are a few steps, and I'm going to explain them all as we go. The first one is to be a member. So congratulations, all of you here. You've all completed that first step on the path to being a Distinguished Toastmaster. You have joined Toastmasters. Well done. The second, okay, so from there, and again, apologies for my facetiousness, but from there we get into the meat of the program and the requirements. There are 5 different requirements, like in different categories. The first one is education. Now, we talked before about the parts. So each of those 11 parts has 5 different levels. Your task, your challenge is to complete 2 of those parts. So level 1 to 5 twice. So if you do that with 2 parts and then complete the Distinguished Toastmaster project that activates partway through your second project, or your second path, if you finish that, that is part 1 of your Distinguished Toastmaster Award already finished. Now, the Distinguished Toastmaster project, when you are halfway through your second path, so when you finished level 3 on your second path, you can email off to World Headquarters, supplyorders@toastmasters.org, and request access to the Distinguished Toastmaster project. At the moment, I don't think it's activating, but you can request off to World Headquarters and they will send it to you. This project is really something special. It's all about taking the skills that you've learned from your first path and your second path and bringing those together into a project that lets you demonstrate the skills that you've learned. It can be anything. It can be, again, developing a plan for a women's shelter to help turn them around. It could be putting on the World Speech Day. It could be running a project in your workplace. It could be working with a community organization. There are so many different things that you can do. But anything that allows you to work with a team and to demonstrate the skills that you've been learning is eligible for the Distinguished Toastmaster project. It's quite fun, highly recommended. So if you finish those 3 requirements, that's the education component done. The second part, and again, I think most people here potentially have already finished this requirement, is to serve as a club leader for 12 months. Depending on whether your club has 6-month terms or 12-month terms, once you finish 12 months of club leadership, that's another requirement completed on the way to being a Distinguished Toastmaster. If you've been a club leader before and you haven't already used that credit towards an award, you can bring this you can use this towards your Pathways DTM. So congratulations, that's another requirement ticked off on your quest to become a DTM. The third requirement is, again, very similar to what we had in the previous program, to serve as a district officer for 12 months. Now, this is an area director, a division director, a trio member, like a district director, PQD, CGD, a public relations manager, an admin manager, or a finance manager. If you serve as any of those roles, that's going to earn you credit towards your Distinguished Toastmaster Award, as well as being a useful leadership and learning experience in and of itself. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a great learning experience, you get to develop your leadership skills, you get to make a contribution to the district, and you get to tick off another box on your way towards being a DTM. So that's a worthwhile experience in and of itself. And again, we have lots of district leaders on this call this afternoon, and talk to any one of them. They'll be able to tell you about how much they've gained from that experience of being a district leader. Then we come down to these next two components. And the first one is about club extension. It's about how can we help Toastmasters to grow? Because part of the journey of becoming a distinguished Toastmaster is not just about growing ourselves, but it's about growing other people and growing the organization. So by serving as a club sponsor, so by starting a new club, or by coordinating a speechcraft or a youth leadership course, if you do one of those successfully, that's going to earn you a credit towards your DTM. And again, these are worthwhile experiences in and of themselves. You learn so much about project management, about marketing, about mentoring and coaching just through taking on these experiences and those opportunities. But again, it also has a benefit for you too as a Toastmaster working towards your DTM. And then finally, we've got the club support section. So right down the bottom here. Because we don't just focus on bringing in new members and new clubs, we also focus on supporting the clubs and members that we already have. So if you serve as a mentor to a new club, so it's helping a new club through that initial 6 to 12 months of their journey, setting them up for success and getting them started on their Toastmasters journey in the same way that we started on our Toastmasters journey once upon a time. Or if you serve as a club coach, so helping a weak club with 12 or fewer members return back to being a distinguished club, if you complete either of those roles successfully, that's going to help you, again, work towards your Distinguished Toastmaster Award. And once you complete all of these 5 categories, so the education, club leadership, district leadership, club extension, and the club support, your VP Education submits that award toward headquarters, and congratulations, you are now the newest Distinguished Toastmaster in Pathways in the world. Congratulations. Now, this is a journey that's open to everyone. It's something that I challenge all members to really get started in. I became a Pathways DTM almost by accident. A group of us right at the very beginning of Pathways jumped into the program and we wanted to explore it. We wanted to find out about Pathways and just really understand how it worked. And so most of us, the 6 or 7 of us that jumped in really early, we've all earned Pathways DTMs now because we've just worked through the program and we've just wanted to experience it for ourselves. But now, 2 years on, we have we have hundreds of Pathways DTMs around the world now. It's something that any member can pursue. And it's a really good goal because, as I said, becoming a Distinguished Toastmaster isn't just about the title. I mean, being a DTM is great. You earn a lot of respect and you've gained a lot of experience for yourself. But it is that journey of contributing to the organization, of trying out new things, of stretching yourself in new directions. That's the real value of being a DTM. You gain so much from just partaking of the journey, of being a part of that adventure. And the DTM journey is unique to you. You might take it purely in a communication direction. You might want to develop your public speaking skills and learn how to do that really well. And you might tailor your DTM journey to help you build those skills. Or you might want to become a really powerful leader. You might want to develop those skills in Toastmasters and through your DTM journey that are going to help you go out into the world and make an impact. You might want to change the world, and being a DTM or becoming a Pathways DTM and working towards it might be the first step on that journey to you changing the world. I saw that face, Vanita. You're totally going to change the world. Even if it's just, through the impact that you have on other people. There are so many ways for us to influence the world, and the skills that you learn through this DTM journey, that's what's going to set you up for success. So that's the thought I think I'm going to leave you on, is coming right back to where we started. Through the journey that we've had together, we followed Kevin, the koala, on his little exploration of getting started in Pathways. We come back to that fundamental question. Why are you here? What is Toastmasters going to do for you? and how are you going to make the program work for you? Because Toastmasters is a vehicle to change yourself in ways that you never imagined. You can turn yourself from an anxious, introverted accountant into a confident, capable professional. You might be able to use your journey to help make an impact in communities, not just locally, but all around the world. You might take your career in all sorts of interesting directions. You might change careers. You might become a CEO or a business owner or a chairman. Who knows? The wonderful thing about Toastmasters is you never know where you're going to end up. The next global superstar, the next Nobel Peace Prize winner, the next scientist extraordinaire, the next prime minister, the next United Nations leader could be sitting in your club right now. You could be one of these people right now. I don't know where you want to go, but any one of these future leaders could be sitting in this room with us right now. And all it might take is just a little bit of Toastmasters, a little bit of mentoring, a little bit of support, a little bit of goal setting to help you get where you want to go. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. And again, the saying that we began with right at the very beginning, if you never climb, you'll never fall. But there's no joy in living your entire life on the ground. So my question to you, Toastmasters, is, are you going to climb, and where are you going to climb to? Thank you very much.
For all of us. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. Now we move on to the question and answer session.
So I've made a note of a few questions which were floating in the chat window, as well as there was one question that was put into the Google form. So the question is coming from Pandya Rajan, who is from Koramangala Toastmasters Club B2. And he asked how club officers' roles are incorporated with Pathways projects.
Yep.
How are club officer roles incorporated with Pathways project?
Absolutely. So being a club leader and holding a club leadership role is part of the path towards a distinguished Toastmaster, which we covered just before. But also, again, there's that level 5 project we talked about briefly, leading in your volunteer organization. It has a lot of useful information about leadership and how to lead, and is really useful if you're taking on a club leadership role. So if you are holding a club leadership role or thinking about taking on a club leadership role, jump into Pathways, download that project. So leading in your volunteer organization, level 5, download that, read through it, and work on that project throughout your term as a club leader, because it's going to help you be a better club leader. And at the same time, you're working towards a level 5 project in your path. So that means that's one more requirement ticked off on your path on your journey towards completing the path.
Thank you. And there's one more question. Rather, it is a suggestion that is coming from Area Director of Area B3, that is Premjit Singh. So he mentions it will be great if Pathways can include an elevator pitch or a startup pitch module, which will directly help startups all over the world. So this will be a great tool. So is there any chance that new modules can get added into Pathways?
Good question. The great thing about the structure of Pathways is that World Headquarters can, and indeed will over time, continue to add to the program. So because it's all online, they can see what people are wanting more of. There's a long list of paths and projects that members have requested. And as World Headquarters is working through COVID, once that settles down, they'll be able to get back to working on Pathways and adding more paths and projects to the program. So over time, we're going to see the program continue to expand. We have a lot of choice already in those 11 paths, but it's only going to get better and bigger from here. So keep an eye out for it. And again, if you do have suggestions, do send them into World Headquarters, because the more people suggest what they want, the better that helps World Headquarters staff prioritize which ones should be released first.
I think that's going to add some more work to Vanita's profile over there as the program quality director. Perfect. So these were the questions that I could record from the backend, and the rest of the questions have already been addressed. So Veena, if we are good to go ahead, I think we can take it to the next one.
Thank you so much for this wonderful session.